Hello everyone, today I'll be talking about the exotic trace rifle, the Ager Scepter, and with the catalyst, and see how much DPS damage it can do with each of champions, if it's worth using it for master version and for the future for Grandmaster. So for the Ager Scepter catalyst, as you guys know, you'll get an extra perk. When your super energy is full, you can hold the square button, or for the Xbox, it's for the X button. And what it does is it can super drain the energy and overflow the magazine with the empowering beam with bonus damage, an ability to slow and freeze targets until a magazine, or if the super energy runs out, or if you stow your weapon. So let's just say you're using the will given form and you switch your weapon to a heavy. The will given form, the catalyst will stop and the super energy will stop. Or if you reload your weapon, which I highly recommend you don't do, and sometimes I accidentally do when doing DPS, your catalyst will cut off. You will have to use the high DPS weapon again when your super energy is full. So we'll be using the Ager Scepter for each of the champions on the Master Nightfall and the Nightmare Hunt for the Master version. I won't be testing out champions on the Lost Sectors for Legend and Master and Legendary Nightfalls. Mainly we'll be testing out the DPS only for Master version, since for Grandmaster is not available at this time. And to be honest, testing out the champions on the Lost Sector for Legend and Master and Legend Nightfall would be a waste of time for you and for me and for new players. First things first, we're going to be testing out the Overload champions on the Master Nightfall version. The subclass I'll be using is the Stasis. This test I'll be using the Thermal Castic Strike, where you can stagger enemies, stagger overload champions with your melee. So in this test, I'm going to be stunning the champion 2 times. So now I have the overload champion here. I use my melee using the well given form, and it looks like the overload is generating the health. So I stagger one more time and quickly defeat the champion. So it seems to be working, but a bit too risky, to be honest, of using the melee artifact mod. And of course you have to stagger the overload champion 2 times. So let's test out if we can do DPS damage to the overload champion without staggering it. So you can see here the overload champion is right in front of us. Just trying to bait him. So I'll be using the will given form, where you hold the square button and see if it does any effect by just only using the will given form for the catalyst. And it seems like, unfortunately, it doesn't seem to work that well. It's not efficient, and it's a big no. That didn't go well. For the next footage, I'm going to test out the Ager Scepter with the catalyst by just staggering the overload champion only once and using the catalyst will given form. So I stagger it once using the super, and it seems like it was working a bit, but the overload champion is regaining his health, and it's a big no-go. So now we can try the light subclass for the Warlock top 3 with the claws of Amhamkara, where you can get additional melee charge, and of course we'll be using the Thermal Castic Strike. You can stagger overload champions with your melee ability with Stasis or Solar. So now I'm going to try the melee, where you can stagger the champion using the will given form and see if I can defeat this champion on Master version. So I had to stagger 2 times, and it seemed that the second melee for the Warlock wasn't really staggering the champion so much, so as you can see here, it's a bit too risky. Now let's try the anti-barriers with the Ager Scepter. For the first test, I'll be using a light subclass Night Stalker bottom tree with the Ager Scepter Catalyst. So now I'm going to be testing out the champion without using any anti-barrier weapon. And for this season, it is the auto rifle, unfortunately. And it seems to be very efficient towards anti-barrier champions. So now I'll be an additional test dealing with the barrier champion again, but with Warlock. So now using the will given form, just using precision headshots with the trace rifle. Even when using the Stasis subclass, you can still take down the anti-barrier champions with the Ager Scepter. For the unstoppable champions test, I'll be going to the Nightmare Hunt on Master version. The health for the champions for Master is basically the same as the Nightfall. For this test, I'll be just using the Ager Scepter without staggering the unstoppable champion, just to see if you can defeat the champion without any stagger. So you can see it slow and freezes over time, and my super is draining along with the magazine going to 0. And of course something hit me, which was a bit annoying. So it seems like for the Master version, you can defeat the unstoppable champions without any unstoppable mods. So for the next test, I'll be Night Stalker bottom tree using the exotic trace rifle, and this time I'm going to stagger the champion and use the will given form. So right now I'm just going to stagger it once, switch to my exotic, and see if I can defeat the champion or if it does some similar DPS. So when staggering the champion, of course you get a bit of damage boost momentarily, a couple of seconds, so it seems to be pretty efficient for Master version when staggering the unstoppable champion. So here's going to be another test, once again just a second double check test with the Warlock. So it seems to be similar to the Hunter, where you can stagger the champion, get a damage boost, and then you can switch to your trace rifle and use the well given form, which you hold the square button and do DPS to the champion. So overall, for overload champions for Master version, it just seems a bit too risky to deal with them without a overload bow. I wouldn't really recommend using the Ager Scepter for Master, or even Grandmaster would be much worse. I would recommend to use the Ager Scepter with a fire team, but alone it's a big highly not recommended. Now for the anti-barrier champions, this one could be very interesting. For the Master version for anti-barriers, it can completely destroy the barrier champions when using the well given form with the Stasis subclass and with the light subclass as well. I feel like when using this trace rifle, you don't need an anti-barrier artifact mod. Now for Grandmaster, it is a possibility you can take down the anti-barrier champions with the trace rifle, but with Charge of Light, throwing a nade, it can work, and I will be testing it out once Grandmasters are available. Now for the unstoppable champions, it's a bit mix-up. You can guarantee take down the unstoppable champions without the artifact mod, but I would highly recommend to have Charge of Light. Also, throw your nade while you are using the well given form. Now for the Grandmaster, I do have a bit mixed feelings. I would say this weapon will be good for a fire team Grandmaster, but for a solo I have mixed feelings because champions are way more tankier compared to the master version. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video and hope you will enjoy using the Ager Scepter with the catalyst will given form. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.